Good morning and welcome to Many Paths, Many Visions, brought to you by the Labyrinth Society and with your host, Christiana Brinton. This episode is entitled, What Does It Mean to Honor the Labyrinth Environment and Co-Create with Nature? My guest today is the Pacific Northwest native and landscape architect who is a well-known fixture of the Labyrinth Society community. Please join us as we explore the theme of the 2017 TLS Gathering in the context of the Bainbridge-Island and Islandwood Eco-Center settings, and as it relates to my guest's workshop topic and poster presentation. My guest today is Stephen Shibley, a current member of the Labyrinth Society Gathering Steering Committee and former Gathering Liaison for the Labyrinth Society. Stephen is a landscape architect living in Estacada, Oregon, who has designed and installed numerous labyrinths in the Portland, Oregon area and around the Pacific Northwest. He is a workshop presenter this year who helped select the site for this year's gathering, and he's visited Islandwood several times already in preparation for the upcoming October conference. Stephen, welcome to Many Paths, Many Visions, and thank you for joining me today.
Thank you. It's my pleasure, Christiana.
Okay, you were on my Blog Talk Radio podcast show many years ago, so we're sort of old. We should be old hands at this. So thank you for coming on this new show to talk about this year's gathering.
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard to believe that it's been. This will be my 10th gathering, so I guess it's been about 10 years now since I've been involved with TLS.
That's amazing. So let's first talk about the gathering location. Why Bainbridge Island, and what makes the Islandwood Environmental Learning Center a good fit for TLS?
Well, in planning for gathering locations, TLS always looks to vary the geographic location so that some years we offer an urban city environment and others a more rural context. So this will be TLS's third gathering in the Pacific Northwest. 2009 was Edgefield here in Troutdale, Oregon. And 2013, we were up at Tainamara on Vancouver Island and actually in British Columbia. So now 2017 in Islandwood is going to be a great spot because it's a really nice retreat from our busy lives. It's a beautiful island environment just outside of Seattle. So you've got the lush green forests of the Pacific Northwest. It's an award-winning facility that provides comfort, peace of mind, and certainly inspiration that will invite the attendees to really become more connected with nature and better stewards of our environment.
And so would you say the Islandwood culture supports a strong commitment to experiential education, and this sort of fits naturally with all types of labyrinth activities? I mean, so how will this be reflected in the featured speaker presentations and the workshops, the mini sessions, the tours, and other offerings?
Yeah, so experiential education, of course, is all about hands-on learning opportunities. And exploration. And so our labyrinth activities at this year's gathering will certainly offer an array of ways in which you can explore the labyrinth. We're going to have opportunities to build temporary labyrinths on the ground, making use of the natural environment and surroundings and elements from nature in a temporary way. We're going to hear, of course, and see firsthand how specific projects were conceived and built, how you can also sign up for tours for nearby labyrinth sites. There's going to be lots of labyrinth vendors selling their books and art and resource materials, tools. Again, there's going to be lots of folks there happy to share conversation and networking, and all things are going to be labyrinth related within the context of that outdoor environment.
And you said there are, why am I hearing that? You said there are the post-gathering tours. There's time for there's experiential work there too, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so let's talk about the gathering theme specifically. Is there a limit to how one can honor the labyrinth environment? And can you give me some examples?
Well, yeah, I'd say there's a variety of ways to honor the labyrinth environment. And so a couple examples here would be the labyrinth that's set up or constructed for, say, a memorial or prayer garden ought to be created and held in a quiet, safe space for reflection, not, for instance, a site located by a busy automobile intersection or, say, by a nearby big sporting complex, an extreme example. But again, the context is important for memorial or prayer garden where you're going to want quiet, contemplative spaces. Another example would be, say, a beach labyrinth made out of driftwood. That makes perfect sense, of course, in your beach environment, and what do you have at your fingertips? So again, thinking about what the site is asking, what it provides, what's at your fingertips, and how do you honor that place.
And so do you think a labyrinth environment can be dishonored or misused?
Yes, I think that, again, based on the initial intentions set, as in instructions for use, or again, the setting, the context, is it a church, a school, a retreat center, prison, public park? Again, an example would be, let's say you have a labyrinth that's built for folks specifically with mobility challenges, but you place it in a very inaccessible location. That's not honoring the environment and the spirit of who's going to be using it. Or let's say you've got a themed, what I'll call a moon garden labyrinth, where you're going to have all kinds of white flowering plants, so that at dusk the labyrinth comes alive under the moonlight every month. And then you've got some maintenance crews that are taking care of that site, and they prune things in a way that the plants never bloom or grow and flower as intended under that moonlight. So that'd be kind of a conflict of again, not honoring the labyrinth environment and how you're trying to create a space which is very intentional, and then how that is supported needs to also be intentional.
So from your answer, it seems like you can make a decision to honor the environment, but there's a lot of levels that go into it, a lot of stuff that you have to prepare for, and some you can't prepare for, to make sure that that does happen and that your wishes are
Absolutely.
met, and it could change from year to year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That's always a conundrum, I think, with labyrinths outside. Yeah. So how does the Islandwood setting, so is there, wait, I missed a question here. Is there an inherent link between honoring the labyrinth environment and co-creating with nature, or is this specific to outdoor labyrinth locations and installations only?
Well, yeah, so I would say that it's usually specific to the outdoor labyrinth locations and installations.
And but what about energetic, the use of energy tools and bringing in and lays for internal labyrinths that are, that are inside, and I mean, is that not a way of creating, an honoring that maybe wasn't there before? Yes. I mean, can you take
of nature? Yeah, certainly. There's the clearly from my background and training as a landscape architect, I usually am working with nature in the literal context of nature, of outdoors. But I could see how honoring that labyrinth environment, co-creating with nature, certainly on like you say, on an energetic and geometric manifestations, all of that relates to and reflects nature, certainly that can be brought indoors as well.
So there's ways to actually help an indoor labyrinth that might need that is maybe in stasis or
Mm-hmm.
you know, hasn't been used in an honored way through the use of you know, all different kinds of things, all different
Sure.
kinds of methods, prayer wheels and gongs and whatever else you want to try to do, chanting and all of that kind of thing.
Sure.
Ceremony and ritual, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So how does the Islandwood setting support, well, we've already discussed this, the Islandwood setting support this link between honoring nature and the outdoor? I mean, you got the Islandwood setting is just so beautiful. And
yeah, you have 255 acres of island forest environment. So that, again, that forest location would ask that a labyrinth be in nature and made from nature. You know, it's that environment, of course, it's going to reflect and celebrate the surroundings, feel like it was always meant to be there, kind of born of that, the surrounding elements. So again, you might think about labyrinths in the context of natural materials and, you know, celebrating specific views, natural features like maybe a waterfall or a stream or some beautiful rocky outcrop, a still meadow. It's all about the context, and so I think that the Islandwood setting definitely supports that link of environment and co-creating with nature.
Okay, let's talk about your workshop topic as a specific example of the gathering theme. Your workshop is entitled Creating the Labyrinth Environment, the Essence of Placemaking. So please explain what you mean by placemaking.
Well, placemaking is the result of a design process that looks at various site opportunities and constraints with the intention of creating public spaces that are going to promote health, healing, and transformation.
Okay. Okay. So this is a very deliberate way of starting the process.
Yes.
Starting the labyrinth design process and okay. So the design principles you will be sharing with your class are ones that you've learned over the course of many labyrinth installations, correct?
Correct.
So, and is it your belief that respecting these principles results in labyrinths that are optimally used, like happy, positive energy labyrinths?
Yes, I do. I think that, you know, over the course of many different landscape designs, kind of sacred spaces, environments that I've created as a landscape architect over the last 30 years, it is my belief that the success and effectiveness of a labyrinth installation is certainly in proportion to the attention given and to its understanding of the context and the environment with which you're going to be placing the labyrinth. So identifying these opportunities and constraints at the get-go is really critical in terms of an effective design and a space that is going to, again, maximize the usefulness and the intention and the beauty of the vision.
Hmm. So do you ever feel when you give these workshops that you're only scratching the surface, or have the workshops sometimes led you down entirely uncharted labyrinth paths? I mean, either with what you say to the responses that your students have, that the participants have, or just the participants' questions, or
Yeah, there's certainly every project is different, every workshop is different in terms of a different mix of people, and so through that process of giving these workshops, and you talk about opportunities and constraints and what the variations are in terms of the effects that the environment is going to have on a particular vision for a labyrinth and contemplative space. And so undoubtedly new ideas and new ways of thinking about that arise from that kind of rich interchange of dialogue with folks that are in the workshop. So yeah, I'd say that there's no doubt that your life journey is always going to lead you down uncharted
yeah.
twists and turns in the labyrinth path.
Right, it's what we know well from working labyrinths, don't we?
Exactly.
But it does give you fodder for future workshops too, I would imagine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So many of the workshop offerings use the gathering theme metaphorically, but with your poster presentation topic, Forest, Home, Woodlands, Labyrinth, Spirit of the Land, you document the process of constructing an outdoor labyrinth intentionally in harmony with the land. So can you please share some highlights from your presentation?
Sure. I'm working on a poster presentation entitled Forest, Home, Woodlands, Labyrinth, Spirit of the Land, and that is going to describe the process of designing and building a woodland labyrinth on the edge of a forest. This labyrinth happens to be on our family land, and it was built for my mom's upcoming 80th birthday. And our family has a deep connection to that land. We came across on the Oregon Trail and settled the land back in 1864. So there's some rich and deep roots in terms of history and connection to that land. So been talking with my mom over the years about a permanent labyrinth, and so this labyrinth form then that was imagined and eventually built here utilized and celebrated the 5 different predominant species, tree species, on our property there. And so we have the walls or the lines of 5-circuit labyrinth path being vertical alder tree rounds, kind of like firewood rounds or limbs, and so those are sticking up to create the lines. Hemlock bark dust for a really nice even mulch path that you walk on, and then in the center ring there are 3 different seat areas made out of stumps, and that's made out of maple, Douglas fir, and cedar tree rounds. And so again, this labyrinth, it's not only celebrating the family's forest legacy and stewardship of the land, but again, that labyrinth was definitely born of the land and provides a place for reflection and gratitude and family celebration. And this labyrinth absolutely asks you to co-create with nature.
Sounds wonderful. So I have had experience working with local materials and materials that disintegrate over time. So, and I was wondering if you can address that aspect of your of the materials that you're using? Because I know that wood disintegrates.
Right. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so this is
And
just an
so
upkeep
certainly,
thing.
yeah, as a natural material, it will have a life. What we did in order to extend and maximize the life of the elements in creating that labyrinth were a couple important pieces. One was that we happened to be thinning an alder plantation, which is a purposely planted 4-acre site that is growing alderwood for furniture. It's a 25 to 30-year rotation before that's harvested and sold. And so you thin that stand about the midlife point. So we're about approaching 15 years. And so some of that thinning then means we got to work with fresh green limbs and young trees. That these trees were not dying rotted wood, which again is already decomposing, right? So using fresh green wood is important. The other thing is ground contact. There's no soil contact because what we did was we graded the area, put down landscape fabric and a base aggregate of crushed gravel, so that we could level and compact and firm up that site. But then when we built the walls and essentially planted these rounds in an upright position, they're trenched in and buried and held by the gravel. So the bottom end of those rounds are in gravel, not touching soil. So again, that whole process and construction detail allows for less contact with soil and using wood that was green and therefore not already in an advanced state of decomposition. All of that's going to help, and time will tell how long this will last, but it will be very easy if there are some pieces that kind of disintegrate or fall apart 15, 20 years down the road, I don't know, then you just cut another one and replace it. So I think it's going to last a really long time, but it is a natural element.
Yeah, yeah. And so but where you live, you get snow up there, so you do have a freeze level in the ground, correct?
Yes, but we don't get, we're only about 1,000-foot elevation, and most of our snow actually in the foothills really are more like 2,000 foot and above. And so we may get seasonal snow, but it's actually pretty wet snow. So we don't have really cold situations, but we certainly have a lot of rain, a lot of moisture. And so there's no doubt that nature will work on it in our climate over time. And it's not like a dry, high desert environment where I think you could also have certain woods that would last a very long time. We are in the Pacific Northwest, and it is green and lush and moist.
Yeah, yeah. And how about when you decided? How did you decide on a 5 circuit and where to put the center and the entrance? And was that because you're talking about honoring the labyrinth environment. So how does the placement of those things and the use of that particular labyrinth honor that?
So on that particular site, it's on a forested edge. There's a big meadow and my mom's flower garden. The forest is on the edge of that, and these are really tall fir trees, and it looks out through those trees over a canyon. It's part of our property. And so I intentionally set that labyrinth, nestled it into a natural kind of clearing in that edge. So it's off of the meadow and into the forest canopy, so that the entrance was positioned so that you had a sight line kind of deep into the woods. But as you walked it, and when you're in the center, the views, which would be to the south and through the trees towards the distant mountains and foothills of the Cascades, or beyond that canyon. So there's dramatic views that were important. So that finding that center of the labyrinth had to do with taking advantage of what are the views in a 360-degree radius, and then that entrance. Where do we want to enter this so that it made sense with other garden paths and again sight lines, and what do you look at when you stand at that threshold? And I wanted us to be looking deep into that wooded property.
And is this a traditional classical 5 circuit, or did
Yes.
you spice it up a
yes
little bit?
Yeah, no, it's a traditional classic 5 circuit, and the 5 circuit was chosen because of the space. It ended up being, I think, about a 33-foot diameter labyrinth, and that was the space we had. And with the 5 circuit, it allowed us to have a 2-foot wide mulch path. So to have a little more generous path with these vertical wood members as the lines just felt more comfortable than a really tight, narrow path. So that's how we arrived at the 5 circuit, and there's a very nice, generous center space where multiple people, we've had family of, a dozen of us in a circle in the middle there quite comfortably.
Nice.
So
you're honoring the family.
Yes.
Yeah. That's great. Oh, I'm getting feedback. Or is that from you?
I don't think so. I don't hear anything on my end.
Oh, that's strange. Okay. So can you give us a taste of what's to come for you on the Labyrinth path? On your Labyrinth path?
Right. Well, as much as I can guess, because of course my Labyrinth path always takes me in interesting ways that I don't quite see coming. So what I imagine on my path is that I continue to want to pursue marketing and my Labyrinth work and manifesting more Labyrinth projects in a variety of settings. I'm intrigued by a couple possibilities. I recently went wine tasting in the Willamette Valley here. We have a lot of beautiful wineries, and I thought, oh, wouldn't that be fun to approach some of these winemakers and owners of these beautiful estates and see whether they'd be interested in having a Labyrinth be part of their experience for guests that come to taste wine and meander and relax and enjoy the beautiful views. And so I've thought about that. I've also thought about certainly a lot of with our aging population here, that the more these senior communities that are developed, they're really looking at more holistic living and kind of healing environments. And so I would love to be able to work with some of those facilities in incorporating labyrinths into their healing environments. So I have lots of ideas about how to kind of market and pursue. I just have to go after it and let that all unfold in the way that it's going to. But I'm always open to the journey and don't pretend to know where exactly that will take me. Yeah. But I trust the path.
But at least we know we'll see you at the gathering.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, Stephen. We don't have any people on, no Q&A session today. So okay. It's been a pleasure sharing this hour with you, and thank you so much for joining me today.
You're welcome, very welcome. It was nice to be able to talk about the upcoming gathering at Islandwood on Bainbridge-Island, and we really hope to see a lot of folks there this year. It's going to be fantastic.
Yes, absolutely. So many continued blessings on your path, Stephen, and we will be talking again on one of the other go-to-meetings that we have. So thank you very much, and you take care welcome. And have a great week.
Okay, you too. Peaceful meanderings, as I like to say.
So you've been listening to the Labyrinth Society's Many Paths, Many Visions, broadcast by Spreaker with your host, Christiana Britton. Be sure to check the TLS website Facebook page, global group, YouTube, and Google Plus for a list of upcoming dates and guests. Also, if this podcast has piqued your interest in the Labyrinth Society and you'd like more information about membership, please go to www.labyrinthsociety.org/membership. Ciao, namaste, and may you find what you need on your path through life.